We definitely should have been consulted, and up to this point I don't feel like I have been consulted at all.
Our property rights have been extensively eroded. I don't think that the government should be behaving the way they are. All Victorians should be, and all Australians should be really concerned about this.
It makes me feel sick in the guts that they can come over here and just put a ruler across a map and say we're going there.
I don't know what our lives would become if we couldn't stay on the farm. It's been our home for 6 generations.
I can't imagine raising my children underneath high voltage power lines, and I won't. We just don't want to put that into our world yet, but that is there. That's what you're sleeping with every night.
We're certainly seeing a dramatic price decrease, and that's due to a lot of times the uncertainty of where the power lines lie. But it definitely is dividing communities, and that is a really bad thing when you're in such a small population as we are in St Arnaud and surrounding districts.
As a CFA member, I don't think it is safe at all to take myself or the crew in underneath these things or around these things. It can kill you.
We're angry out here, but there's not enough of us and we're not getting heard.
We feel as though we have no voice, and every time we get a chance at having a voice, we get muted.
This is probably the first time that we've seen in our community that there has been such a public uproar about these power lines.
People in the inner city don't understand just how devastating this is going to be for us.
I honestly don't know whether self-harm would be an end result in some of this stuff that's going on right now. I definitely won't put the ruler through it because I know it's happened before and it'll happen again.
Australia is defined by our regions. It's where the Australian way of life receives its best expression, and it's where the lion's share of our national wealth is generated. But the future of too many regional communities is under threat. And that threat is not just from fires, flood or drought, but from the reckless rollout of so-called renewable energy projects. Here in the Wimmera, in the Western Districts of Victoria, the VNI West project is promising to impose 400 kilometres of high-tension, high-voltage transmission lines through regional communities. These communities have been living under a cloud since 2019, and they still have no answers from their government about how their livelihoods will be affected. The Australian way of life is based on the idea that everybody in our nation, no matter their station, gets to have a say over their community and their nation's future. The team at the Institute of Public Affairs has been visiting regional communities across Australia to understand the impact of the net zero renewables rollout, and it is time for Australia to hear their stories.
I first found out about VNI West in the Weekly Times, which is an agricultural newspaper, and it just showed a great big, corridor potential. I think it was 50k wide of potentially where VNI West could be going, and of course we were right smack bang in the middle of that corridor. In no other way had we been notified. I think after that, the local VFF, which is the Victorian Farmers Federation, they put together a meeting, and they brought with them the CEO of VicGrid. And basically the outcome of that meeting was extremely depressing. It's going to come through here and that's it.
It was really hard to find out information about the VNI West. There was actually a QR code published in the local paper that someone looked up and said, oh, there's a meeting about some power lines or infrastructure development that's happening in our area. Does anyone know anything about it? And at that point, no one had heard anything about it. No one had spoke to any landowner, as far as I'm aware, in this whole district. And they would not at all at that point discuss anywhere where the line would go, although people did find potentially where it might have been slated, and that's when we become quite aware that Gree was a main target area for this proposed infrastructure of 80-metre high towers every 200 metres. The proposed VNI West is going to run through our farmland here at Gree. We've been sent some stuff in the mail that has identified several blocks, which include the house block, blocks out the front, and blocks running north of here Do you know how many acres?
I don't know how many acres but it's, yeah.
It's hundreds. That's the part of VNI West, I guess, that's going to affect our farm.
So the VNI West line would be 800 metres or more off our farm, or it's going through our land, quite a bit of our land. So for the insurance purposes, if we were to insure all the paddocks it's looking to go through, it'd be about 800 acres. We'd be having trouble insuring because you can't insure very well under these lines. It makes it very difficult to farm.
Not to mention, you actually need special licences to be able to operate underneath these power lines. We need permits. Those permits aren't on a farm basis, they're on an individual machinery basis. So not to mention, it's going to be difficult to farm underneath these, but we also have a lot of legal operations we now need to consider, even to just do our daily tasks, our daily chores. So just to make our business operate, we have a whole lineup of legal documents to go through.
We definitely should have been consulted, and up to this point I don't feel like I have been consulted at all. We've had meetings with them, but the answers are very vague and they're just skipping around. Just consultation isn't a thing now.
Yeah, we haven't had any form of actual consultation. We've had greetings with them. We know who they are. We're not getting any new information, and by this time in the project they should have a lot more answers for us, and a lot more specific answers for us. This is going to affect a large portion of our lives, and I feel like we should have all the information ready at hand before they proceed.
Like, I remember speaking to one local farmer, and he said, "Oh, that was, Marcy, this is really bad, isn't it? Like, this is going to be, this is going to happen. Like, nobody's going to listen to anything we have to say." And then just the complete lack of information. Like, they had a pop-up, van or something in St Arnaud installed, but they literally had like, teenage kids handing out pamphlets who couldn't answer any questions at all. Like, it was a complete, joke. But of course that's considered a consultation.
A couple of backpackers turned up at the supermarket in town, and they had an iPad and a wad of cash, and walking up and down the street out the front asking people what they thought of renewable energy. And they were getting a few people coming in, and they'd hand them the note, and they were doing I think it was just a tick the box sort of questions. When the questionnaire was done, they'd hand that person a $20 note. And I actually heard stories of these people going back to their houses, getting changed into different clothes, coming back and redoing the questionnaire. So they were obviously just paying them to put in the questionnaire what they wanted to hear.
I feel that questionnaire they took was about being able to say that this community supports renewable energy without anyone understanding what the questionnaires related to. Obviously the questions are extremely biased. Most people just wanted $20.
I don't think that the government should be behaving the way they are. And I think that all Victorians should be, and all Australians should be really concerned about this, because, it's a slippery slope. Our property rights have been, extensively eroded with, ministerial orders and then changes to how the Planning Act is applied. There's all these things that are just slowly eroding our rights and our ability to protect our properties and our businesses, our homes.
If this goes ahead and it goes across our land, there's been talk it could devalue land by half. So our ability to borrow against that land, that will be a really big impact on us, because you get in the tight years when not much is grown, sheep aren't worth much, grain's not worth much or whatever. You need to be able to rely on the banks to be able to borrow a bit of money just to get you through the tough times. And if we can't borrow against our land, well, then we're stuffed.
Farming is our lifestyle. It's not just a job. Everyone around here, our neighbours, our community, we live our lives on these farms. They're not just our businesses. And it is just appalling what we're going to have to put up with from government. Not to mention all of the preparation we have to go through if these do go up.
You have to get permits to use different agricultural things. You may not even be able to use them at all. We ask, how do you get, what's the process for those permits? Who's the authority of those permits? And the people who are coming to speak to us, originally from AMIO and now TCV, which is Transmission Company, have no answers to those questions. They say things like, it won't happen for a couple of years, we'll get you a fact sheet in a couple of years' time. Like, Like, who runs a business like that? When we plan years and years ahead and potentially generations ahead, and this sort of industrial infrastructure owned internationally is the impact, it's going to be huge.
We just don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that's what throws a lot of doubt into us.
Farmland that has V&I West running across it will lose its value. Assets have been slated to diminish as much as 25% purely because it's proposed, and when they actually go up, potentially 50%.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing the impact of land prices within our local area, and also land in direct line of the power line. So we're certainly seeing a dramatic price decrease. It's a major influence. We've had examples both at auction and private treaty of land that A, has not made the market price, and B, has not sold, and that's due to a lot of times the uncertainty of where the power lines lie. People say, what sort of percentage, and I've been asked this question a lot of times, what sort of percentage do you think the land has devalued in? Well, it could be as much as 100%, because if you're marketing a property for $5,000 and it doesn't sell, well, in my poor arithmetic, that seems to be about 100% loss. But certainly us as a business, we haven't had anybody contact us in regards to the effect that it could have not only on our business but on our local community. St Arnaud has and always, in my opinion, been a very tight community and looked after each other. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I respect that 100%. And there's people for it and people against it. But it definitely is dividing communities, and that is a really bad thing when you're in such a small population as we are in St Arnaud and surrounding districts.
We've had generations and generations of farmers who have become neighbours, who have become close family friends, and the last thing I want to happen is for V&I West to force themselves between us and divide these relationships we've had for so long. I'm terrified that it's going to happen in our community next.
The change in the way that you view, I suppose, strangers coming into the area has changed. Like, if you see someone, driving around, you're like, who's that? I bet you that, is that TCV? Is that AMO? Do we need to be letting someone know that because they're, if they're out and about, they're always up to no good. And, that's distressing to constantly be on guard. If planes are flying over, you're on the app to see what plane that is. Is that one of those TCV planes? What are they doing? We had lots of helicopters and stuff, lots of anxiety about what they're doing. And I mean, I never even had an app that followed planes before that.
Everyone's on edge. You see a car go down the road and you think, is that them, or is that just someone driving down the road? And they've even gone to the point of hiring utes that look like farm utes to be touring around to try and disguise themselves. It's very worrying when you don't know who's snooping around your place, and they've got no right to be on our farms.
You're always on edge, aren't you? It's very hard to relax when you see someone, you're not familiar with coming down the road, and especially if they're coming down your road. It's not a very busy road. If you see a car you don't know, it really puts you on edge. It makes it hard to relax in your own home.
Beforehand, we used to get excited when people turned up to our house, or there was someone coming up the road. You'd think, oh, someone's here, and everyone, you get on the UHF that, such and such is here, we better go and see them. Now, someone comes up the road or parks at the gate, or the mail lady comes past, everyone's ringing saying, who's that? What's going on here, Like, my next door neighbour's ringing me, oh, there's a white ute going down such and such a road, we better go and suss this out. Like, that never used to happen. It was, oh yeah, who's that? Blah, 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 blah. But that's the community angst now, and that's the pressure it's putting on us. It's just another job we have to do. Like, now everyone's got to go and chase this white ute that's travelling down a back road that no one used to ever care about. But all of a sudden it's someone trying to take something. Like, we just don't trust anyone anymore because of this.
The signs about not being able to enter the property, every time I do look at them, I get really sad, because it's symbolic of how our life has changed since AEMO has been involved, and we have to learn to protect ourselves and be defensive and quite suspicious. So we put those signs up because that means that people have to speak to us via the phone number that's on there before they're allowed on the property, so that we know who is here. Because people were coming onto properties, we've heard of people going into people's sheds like this and just start talking to them like they're a friend or a peer, and they'll be using that information for all sorts of different things, but certainly not disclosing why they're there and what their intentions are.
You know, we can't afford to have these people just willy-nilly coming on our farms, bringing weed seeds across. Like, biosecurity is a huge issue we've got to keep track of. If diseases are brought onto our farm for our sheep, for instance, we could have to have all our sheep just that have to be killed if you put down.
So the main concern with biosecurity is because these people, this power line is potentially 194 kilometres long. They're going to every property along that line and potentially bringing their weed seeds onto our property and vice versa, or their diseases onto our property, vice versa. So that's why it's a massive threat.
I feel like, you know, the environmentalists in the city, they have great ideals, and, you know, their hearts are in the right places. But I think there's a massive misunderstanding about how we farm and how we value our land and the natural environment. Our farms are not successful if the soil health, if the local environment health is not optimal. So if you haven't got the soil microbes, if you don't have the predators and the insects, if you don't have the pollinators, if you don't have, you know, the native birds and everything working together, it doesn't work.
The mental impacts of having such ill-prepared and deceptive, it's flat out deceptive people in our lives that have a lot of power and a lot of authority, it really puts us on edge. And to be honest, we try not to think about it too much because we've got to get on with our business. We read all the stuff, there's heaps of different things we can read, but I can't imagine raising my children underneath high voltage power lines, and I won't. And we don't really want to discuss that as a family because it's not where we want to go. It's not how we envisioned our life to be, and we just don't want to put that into our world yet. But that is there. That's what you're sleeping with every night.
No, you couldn't be raising a family under high voltage wires. It's just the risks are too high, too dangerous.
We wouldn't want them anywhere near them. I don't even want Will anywhere near them with the CFA. We want to stay as far away from them as possible. Yeah, there's too many risks involved, there's too many dangers.
As a CFA member, I don't think it is safe at all to take myself or the crew in underneath these things or around these things to fight a fire because it's too dangerous. It can kill you. The electricity through these things and the water obviously arc through to the truck or arc through to a person and kill them.
The VNI West Towers, the big worry with the fires is, well, for one, smoke actually conducts electricity if it's thick enough, but so does dust. And if we're dischaining, so we're creating a lot of dust in the middle of summer to knock down stubble residues. The dust, you can barely breathe in it. If you can't breathe in it, it's going to conduct electricity, and that can come down and hit an implement that you're sitting in, or just it can conduct down to the fence lines. It can go anywhere. So, so if the CFA can't fight fires around these things, which they can't, farming's going to become impossible in around these things because as soon as the fire starts, it's gone. It's well past where you can catch it by the time you can get even near it. Because we're not allowed to drive under these power lines in the fire truck if there's smoke and stuff, because you don't know at what point it becomes conductive and it's going to hit your truck and kill you. You've got to drive out onto the road, go all the way around the fire, and then meet it on the other side. By that time, it's probably already travelled 2 or 3 Ks, and the front's 4, 5, 6, 10 times as big as it was. Not to mention the aerial bombers, they can't operate around them. So you can't have aerial support. Yeah, the risk of fire is huge, and at the end of the day, majority of us are volunteers. So it's hard to justify risking your own life when, these things that we don't want, we don't need.
This farm that we live on here means a hell of a lot to me. It's massive. Like, this is where I grew up, and it makes me feel sick in the guts that they can come over here and potentially just put a ruler across a map and say we're going there and don't even care about who's here. I wanted to put a house on a different part of the farm, but I don't know where to put it now because where's this infrastructure going to be? I don't want to face it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be in the firing line of it. So it already has affected my future because I'm stopped. I've waited. I'm going to have to wait. Where's this infrastructure going to go as to what I do next?
You know, we currently live in the old farmhouse, and it's, we've got 6 children now, and it is getting quite old. And, we would love, and we've been hoping to build a new family home for us. There'll be views of the Grampians one way and this, amazing Mount Belangum the other. But because of the proposed V&I West, our plans have sort of been on hold because of the uncertainty around that. There's no minimum distance from people's houses. So, it could be right on top of their family home.
Some nights I wake up and think, geez, is this actually going to happen? Some nights you lay there and for hours before you go to sleep thinking, is this actually going to happen? You wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it. You go sit at the table at lunchtime with the old man, you're talking about it. It's just constantly in your mind, and it actually does mentally wear you down a lot.
Well, there was a National Farmer Wellbeing Report that reported that 45% of farmers had thoughts about self-harm or suicide, and while a third, so 30% actually had attempted. So this is a really vulnerable cohort of the community, and it nearly feels like this vulnerability has been attacked, and it's actually been I don't even know, like targeted essentially by these organisations as a weakness.
I don't know what our lives would become if we couldn't stay on the farm. I mean, this has been our home our entire lives, and it's been our home for 6 generations. I honestly don't know what would happen if we were forced to leave. I actually don't know. I can't imagine myself ever leaving. It's just...
We'll keep fighting and we'll be right.
The mental repercussions and me mates, I am worried about some of them, potentially because that's what these people are trying to do. They're trying to bully us, and they don't, it's hard to explain, but yeah, they're just, I don't know. I honestly don't know whether self-harm would be an end result in some of this stuff that's going on right now, because I definitely won't put the ruler through it, because I know it's happened before and it'll happen again.
Farmers will never adopt the role of victims, and they're sort of, they'll keep things bottled up and inside and won't discuss these issues in public generally. This is probably the first time that we've seen in our community that there has been such a public uproar about these power lines within our area, and I think now they're thinking, well, the only way we can actually fight this is to stand up for it and be heard. And if we can extend the voice of this to more than just our local country areas and get this into the city, I'm sure that a lot of people in the cities aren't aware of what's going on up here. If I walk down to the main street of Collins Street and asked 100 people what do they think about the transmission lines in country Victoria, I would say 99 wouldn't know what are you talking about.
We feel as though we have no power. We feel as though we have no voice. And every time we get a chance at having a voice, we get muted. We don't get in the media because they don't think that our story is important enough.
No.
We took probably maybe 30 tractors and about 10 trucks, something like that, down to Melbourne. And we did a rally out the front down at Melbourne, and we got about 3-5 minutes worth of airtime on Win News. We got the smallest coverage we could.
I thought a big stunt like that would bloody have some impact, but not quite. We're angry out here, but there's not enough of us and we're not getting heard.
This isn't the first time these families have come to State Parliament to make some noise, and they say unless significant changes are made to these renewable projects, they will be back.
Yeah, farmers aren't big complainers. They would rather just get the job done and fix the problem. I mean, I know Will never complains, he just fixes it, whatever it might be. So to be able to get a community worth of farmers complaining about a single project, yeah, you've done a good job to really annoy some people. There is one good thing that's come out of it. Our whole community has banded together and they've got this amazing energy about them. You know, everyone's getting together, everyone wants to help, everyone wants to join in and help, and it's brought our community closer together in a way, because, I mean, we're all fighting for the same cause. Everyone's got this fight about them, they've got this fire in their belly and they want to get in and they want to help their neighbour, they want to help each other. I mean, I don't know, it's dividing some people, but then on the other hand, it's also bringing people closer together. Like, if we don't believe the lies that are coming from these guys, we all stick together and we've just got this amazing energy about us. You know, there are some days that are harder than others, but I think overall it's giving people more passion and more energy to keep going the way we're going and to keep, you know, fighting this and stopping this from happening.
The stories of Marsha, Cindy and Bill, Will and Rachel are just some of the thousands of stories being told across regional communities throughout our nation of families and communities that are being pushed to the brink by the net zero renewable rollout. The political establishment and the inner city elites who demand these policies are never the ones who pay the price. We must remember it's regional communities who put food on our table, keep the lights on, and earn the critical export revenue that keeps our nation ticking over. No family across our nation should ever be put through what these families are being put through. And the renewable net zero rollout has no social licence to operate. We need mainstream Australians in our cities and in our suburbs to get behind and support our regional communities. The Institute of Public Affairs will continue to do research on this vital matter so Australians can learn the truth about what is happening in the bush. Share this video and talk about it and discuss with your colleagues, friends and families to make sure that their stories are told.